So thank you everybody for coming out tonight, and I don't know where to start. I have so many things jumbled up inside, and it's kind of awkward because I've never done like I've never been like a PowerPoint kind of guy. I've always somebody just kind of speak from my heart, tells my story, but I was busy. I was having so many ideas that I wanted to touch upon, so I was kind of working on a PowerPoint presentation, and I went through it, and I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. So I'm just going to kind of tell my story, and then maybe go back and through the PowerPoint or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. But
let it flow.
But you know, a couple weeks ago, Justin and Rob were having this conversation, and I was going to be the presenter for the next EMM meeting, and we talked about having it in your house, and I was just thinking, like, I just said, yeah, that's cool, and then I started thinking, like, well, I just had this happen. This is like early, like just a couple of weeks before they had this conversation with me, and I was just like, well, I just had this happen. So just to see that abundance comes in many forms, and I'm just grateful that all the hard work and help that I've gotten from a lot of different individuals that we're able to restore this. And the only thing left is this molding around the edge here. And other than that, we got like all the mold taken care of, all the water's gone, and everything's back better than before, right? So wealth consciousness. I just want to tell you, like, well, first of all, let me start with this. My friend Jerome, he's going to give a little, share a little something for us, hopefully.
Hey guys, just wanted to drop in and give Pankaj Sharma a little testimonial. You know, he came into my life when things weren't the best. In fact, they were probably the worst they've been in a really, really long time. I was working through a divorce, wasn't making a lot of money, and was really just trying to find my way in one of the most difficult times in my life. And he introduced me to wealth consciousness. And the daily meditations, the practice of getting in tune with wealth has really transformed my life over the past 18 months. You know, I went from wondering how I was going to pay for things and using credit cards to cover items that were a few $100s to spending thousands of dollars on unexpected opportunities over the course of a month. And, you know, had I not met Pankaj when I did, I'm not very clear about where I would be right now. But what I can tell you is that there was a point where people were encouraging me to file bankruptcy. And I've been able to fight through all of that and no longer in jeopardy of being without. In fact, I'm enjoying abundance and wealth. So I encourage you to dig in and fully participate in the program that Pankaj is going to guide you through, because it's been transformational for my life. Hope to get to meet some of you at some point. Talk to you soon.
So I met Jerome like about 2 years ago. We just kind of met online on LinkedIn, and Jerome is the founder of the Mid-Atlantic Multifamily Investing Conference, and he also teaches the Myers Method. So he teaches a lot of people about multifamily. I've been in the multifamily industry for about over 2 decades, right? She's been in it for 4 decades. So we just connected, and he came up and he stayed at my house for like 2-3 days, and I didn't really know about his financial condition at the time, but like I just shared one thing with him, and the thing with him though, he took it and he used it. He applied it day in, day out for 2 years, and everything just changed. And he was like really in the dire circumstances at the time. I knew he was tied up. I know he was really jammed up financially, but I just didn't know the extent of it. You know, like today was actually when he sent me that video, that was the first time he really told me like what was really going on at that time. But I just knew he was hurting. I could tell he was hurting, you know, but he took one thing that I taught him. I gave him one thing. I said, if you do this one thing, it'll change your life. And he did it day in, day out. He took this, and actually the one thing that I gave him, can I see that book for a second? The one thing is like, Sean shared an affirmation at the end of the meditation. God is lavish, unfailing abundance, the rich, omnipresent substance of the universe. Right? There's like 10 statements in this book called the Abundance Program. And you do each statement for 10 days, for 40 days, but you do 10, you know, there's 10 statements, so you do 4 cycles. You cycle through. And that was the one thing I gave him. And he took each statement and he did it every day. And he would just do it even on a surface level. Now I've been able to give him the wealth consciousness piece, this type of meditation. He's able to combine the two, and it's like dynamite. It's a whole different power. Because when you do an affirmation on the surface level, very rarely does that affirmation reach deep down. You know, everything is going on in here. And to get down in here is where the real work is. You know, you can take a pile of doo-doo, right, and just spray paint it, put roses around it, all that, but it's still underneath. That doo-doo is going to eventually come to the surface. And the same thing with whatever's inside of us. And so wealth consciousness is an inside job. Whatever was on the inside is going to reflect on the outside. That's the one thing I learned over 30 years ago. And it's still true to this day. I was meditating the other day, it came again. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world, right? And so we're all so busy taking care of the outer world, nobody's taking care of the inner world. But when you go under the hood of the car, that's where the real stuff, that's where the real work goes, and you change. That's where you're able to fix the issues of life. Every issue, every problem, every situation, the origination of it is under the hood. And when I say under the hood, I'm talking about inside, the journey inside. So the outside is the reflection of what's inside of us. And if we deal with what's inside of us, we don't have to be so busy putting out fires outside of us all the time and reacting from drama. A lot of people, right, are addicted to drama because it makes them feel alive. They don't know how to live a peaceful life. Because if they were to live a peaceful life, then they wouldn't have nothing to make them, you know, feel alive and wake them up. So like a lot of people, that's an addiction sometimes, addicted to drama. So it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of inner work to get to a place of like being able to not just be at peace, but to live in peace, you know? So just a little bit about myself. For 30 years, I've been interested in this kind of stuff. It's not just something I'm new to. And how I dated myself is that 1994, this course came out from Nightingale Conant. Anybody been a Nightingale Conant fan from back in the 90s? From the 90s? So in the 90s, I was in my early 20s or mid 20s or whatever. I was soaking this stuff up. Any course that came out. So when this course came out, I jumped on it. And then there was nothing new in the course. There was nothing new that was given there, but it was talking about everything about prosperity consciousness. And there was nothing new, but I would listen to these tapes. Back then you had tapes. I don't think it wasn't even a CD I had. I had these tape course, 12 tapes or something that would, and I was a fiend, you know, whatever I was attracted to learn at that time. My 20s, people are going to disco club or whatever, you know, I'm listening to Nightingale Conant, you know, and listen to the top teachers teaching about, you know, business and spirituality and all that kind of stuff. Today, I don't have that patience to listen to a whole lot of stuff, to be honest, to go back to you. But back then, I was soaking it up like a sponge, right? So, like, I've been into this for a long time. Now, this is taken from the introduction of wealth consciousness. And I didn't study the principles of freedom, of abundance, and all this stuff because I wanted to get a lot of stuff. My real driving force was I wanted freedom. I wanted lifestyle freedom. I didn't want to be just the working guy. I didn't want to just be the working hard. I didn't just want to be the hamster on the wheel. Because I looked at society even then in my 20s, and I'm like, everybody's just like running, but they're not getting anywhere. They're just like, you know, just like zombies. Like everybody's just like doing this thing, paying the bills, but like it's just, I didn't want that life. I didn't want, whatever I saw everybody else doing, I didn't want it. I wanted something else. And so because I wanted something else, I would turn to like find out, how can I get something else? You know, how can I get the information? So freedom with abundance is your reward for perfecting the practices and techniques in the following pages. And that's talking about this book, Wealth Consciousness, right? But it's funny how 17 years ago, I taught people in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. There was no Zoom back then, right? So New Jersey, I would go drive physically to Jersey every week, drive physically to Delaware every week, and drive to Paoli in Pennsylvania, you know, every week for a course of 8 weeks, you know, 2 months straight to teach a group of people, 30 people, whatever, this book, right? But the one thing that this book taught me, the meditation practice, which is the foundation of this whole book, the guy who wrote this book, and I'm going to get into it on the next slide, but the guy who wrote this book says that he didn't just like research or anything, he just would meditate and do this stuff, and the book wrote itself. And he didn't just write this book, he wrote like 3 other books. One of like the Unified Field, right, which is out of print, you can't find it anywhere. If you look on Amazon, it's like $100 or something, right? He wrote a book on love, he wrote a book on health, right? But every one of them, in this book he calls about the money rhythm. In the other book he'll call the same rhythm, he'll call it the health rhythm. He'll call it the love rhythm, but it's the same one rhythm that he would start feeling this rhythm, this vibration that was emanating from this area, what the Hindus called the Hridayam, the seat of joy, right? It's like close to what we would call in anatomy would call the thymus area. That there's this resonation, not a resonation or impulse that's soft and it's very subtle. And if you tune into it, it's like a mantra. And a mantra, the word mantra, and the Hindu word mantra, right, means mantra, 2 words together. Man means mind. Tra is to be released from your mind, to be freed from your own mind, right? Because people talk about mindset, but nobody talks about how to be free from your mind, how to be free from the tyranny of your own mind. Most people don't even know they have a tyrannical mind. So, but we'll talk about that later. But this pulsation, this is what he would do. He would just tune into this pulsation, and this practice that I'm inviting you. I'm here like he said you're here to sell knives or something, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Like this is like that one of those presentations, and it is a sales presentation. I'm here to sell you on something, but salespeople only do one thing. They only assist people to help them to make wise decisions. Real good salespeople. That's all they do, right? So I'm not forceful here. They don't need to and they know if the product or service that they have is not right for their customer, they don't try to have to push it on them, right? But they help the person make wise decisions, good salespeople. So I'm here to hopefully help you make a wise decision if the product or service is right for you. But the catch is, I'm not getting any financial gain from this. I'm doing it for free, right? I just took a group of people through this book for free online Thursday nights. And even if you don't do it with me, if you have the book, you can just use the book. And just follow the book and do the meditation. And I guarantee you, your life is going to change in so many ways. But we'll get into that. But getting back to this, freedom with abundance, right, is your reward for perfecting and practicing the techniques in this book. Who doesn't want freedom with abundance? Everybody, I bet you in this room, wants freedom with abundance, right? I gotta backtrack. I gotta rewind, go back in my story just a little bit. So 5 months ago, it's really funny how one situation can trigger another situation, trigger another situation, can trigger another situation, and then here we are together in this room tonight. And that's what happened. 5 months ago, I was at the car dealership, waiting for my car to get serviced, and I pulled out a piece of paper, and I took a quick inventory of my life. Quick inventory, just on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate yourself spiritually? How do you rate yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, financially? Financially, I gave myself a 10. Spiritually, I gave myself a 5. And that was a real shocker for me because spirituality was always my strong suit. It was my game. It was where I invested most of my time and my focus. So like when I took that thing and I gave myself a 7 for mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? And then 5 socially as well. So I figured I had to get more social, so I joined the So that's a joke. Anyway, but but getting back to spiritual, and I knew from looking at this quick inventory of my life that I needed to start. That I had gotten to a point in my life where I was just coasting, like everything was good, so to speak. For me, at least personally, everything was good, and I was just like, I'm good, and I stopped being hungry. I stopped being motivated. I stopped living an inspired life, because I thought I had arrived. And the death of anybody is to arrive. When you're green, you grow, you're ripe, you die. So I want to stay green and I want to stay growing like my mom. 80 years old, still green and growing. Not yet. I can't count. My mathematics is not my strong suit. Almost, right? Sooner or later. The dad's 80 though, right?
No.
Dad is?
Oh, Dad is.
Yeah, okay, all right. I mix you two up. I do somebody's 80.
Yeah, I'm just saying my birthday the parties too. We should not.
Right, because, wait, you like a 50-year-old. What can I say? You know what I mean? Like, something's working good for you.
Well, I'm fine. Thank you.
Yes.
We don't recommend all
Indians. So, all right.
Thank you, Mom.
But you're doing good, Mom. All I say is, even though you're still like a 60-year-old in my book. All right? So what was I getting? I got off track. What was I talking about? Somebody help me get back to where I was. Okay, so I take the inventory, right? So I take the inventory and I realize, wow, I need to start doing something. And then, so I started, doing some meditation. I didn't get back to this book yet, but I started doing some meditations and stuff and started doing something. I don't even remember what I was doing. And then my son had my son had his graduation party. He graduated from high school. And Charlie, who's back there, the world famous therapist who's helping people's butts all over the world. Butts and wherever, butts, backs, and what?
Well, sciatica pain.
He's good, man. He's doing it, and COVID helped him. I go see this guy. I would look at his book library all the time, and we would compare notes. So he gave him this book, and his book was sitting there on my table, and this book has been sitting in my living room for a while. I thought, so I'm gonna pick it back up. It was just sitting there. If I don't know how many months had gone by, I don't think a whole year had gone by, but it was there for a long time in my living room, and I hadn't picked it up and I hadn't opened it. But this book, I said, all right, let me pick this up. And I opened it, and I read the first chapter, right? And I'm like, I remember this stuff from when I was in my early 20s. I was listening to Napoleon Hill like, nothing like, I was just always listening to his tapes of him talking and his archaic voice and reading his book and getting to the message. And he talked about some principles of life, universal principles that work. Whether people call him a scam or people call him whatever. Like, he talked about the mastermind. He went and interviewed all these successful people like Edison and Ford and all the people of his day, and he interviewed them, and he got down to the key principles. And one of the things was that all riches come from ideas, right? Right? And that all riches also start with an idea, and that if you receive those ideas from infinite intelligence, right? And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to read a chapter a week or something like that. I'm going to finish this book. But then I started looking at this book. This book is so much better. This is so much better. Now, I didn't compare the pages, but just to tell you about this book. This book is less, reality it's about 100 pages, right? But I knew about this book because, like I said, 17 years ago, I was, so it wasn't like I didn't read this book before. And this was familiar, like, it was reminding me of good stuff. But, like, I was like, man, I can get so much more. Like, sometimes less is more. Like, it's not just the softer, easier way that I'm attracted to. Like, I'm also attracted to less is more. If I can do a little bit and get a whole lot, I like that. A lot of people want to do a whole lot and get a little bit. I don't like that. That's not me. So I'm into the less is more. And so I knew with this book, if I could, this meditation, I knew about the practice. I said, because when I remembered, and then I started getting flashbacks of when I was doing it and what was going on in my life and how I was just living in the flow and things were just coming together. So I started doing the book again, right? I started doing the meditation again, started going through halfway through the exercise. I'm like, oh my God, this is too good to keep to myself. I have to share it with other people. So on July 18th, I sent out an email just in 2 weeks, I'm going to start this thing and I'm going to take people through the book. And about 30 people showed up, right? Just from a short thing. I didn't hardly, put it out really. I wasn't on Facebook. I hadn't been on Facebook for a long time. I deleted my account last year or something like that. So it wasn't like I put it out to the world. I just put it out to a few people. And then a few people, I allowed them to put it out to a few people. And so 30 people and about 17, 18 people actually followed through the course. So Sean, can you come up for a second? Yeah. We were supposed to do this earlier, but I just kind of. So Sean, one of you guys, everybody knows Sean. So Sean did the thing with me, right? The last 2 months. So Sean, what did you get out of it?
Wow, where do I start? So for me, in the beginning of doing the meditation, reading the book, and following along, having the experiential part of it, it was awesome. And absolutely, it actually came at a perfect time in my life because I've been going through depression, anxiety for about the past 3 months, a lot of work changes, a lot of other things happening. So I just was in a weird, dark, low place. And I'm sure all of us have been there at some point in our lives. He comes along and says, hey, I have this book, let's do it. I said, you know what, I'm 100% in, let's go. So in the beginning, it was great, right? You have this, anything new is very exciting, right? It makes you feel good. But then all of a sudden, that anxiety and depression really started to come up. It's like anytime that you face those demons, like you have to slay them, right? But honestly, man, I could say going through that and meditating, I wasn't a daily meditator, right? There's some days where I just kind of shut down. I just don't want to do anything. But I'm sticking it out. If I miss a day, the next day I would get back on it and keep going. And I can confidently say, like, what I needed back then was not so much financial. It wasn't social. It was really just to kind of fix me inside. because I was feeling lonely, dark, depressed, anxious, and I still have it to this day. I mean, it still comes up a little bit, but I can honestly say that going through this, my wealth right now is getting through that. And I have got through that, and I'm a lot better now today than I can say that I was 3 months ago. So we all have our own things that we deal with, and for me, that's where this book has led me, and that's why I'm even more jazzed to do it a second time, because I feel like I've worked on a lot of that stuff that's come up, and now I have a greater appreciation to kind of get into the meditation, and like I do feel the flow. That's what is really cool about it. For me, I feel just like rocking side to side, this energy that kind of orbs around my body, and it's really nice, it's really comfortable. So.
And so, what did it give you some clarity too in your life as far as your direction?
Yeah, it gave me clarity. I'm a big fan of what you said. I want to do a little bit to get a lot. The Pareto's Law, 80-20 rule, right? And what I really think hit me like a ton of bricks is that I'm in an industry and I'm in a profession that probably isn't suiting my little bit to a lot. It's like I do a lot of work. I have a lot of responsibility. I have a lot of guys that I have to work with, and I love them, and we do a really good job. But for the wealth that I know that I'm able to achieve, I don't necessarily think that what I'm in right now is going to help me hit that. So I had a lot of clarity at that point, and I think a lot of the anxiety and stress came around, I just got this amazing new promotion at work, but I'm also dealing with the struggle of, is this really where I need to be for the rest of my life, right? And I think the answer, honestly, quite frankly, is no. But I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to do my best to work on other things to support that. But the clarity that I got was what I share with you guys, the crypto fund. It might sound wild, it might sound out of the box, it might sound gnarly, but I'm a big believer in what's called decentralized finance, and I was sitting there meditating one day, and it was just like, it just came up. And then it was like, well, what can you do next? And I was like, well, the next thing I do, I can call some people that either have funds or know how to do them. And literally the past 2 weeks have just been, is where my clarity comes from, and the past 2 weeks I've gotten that clarity. And for me, it's been just taking the action and calling the necessary people that I need to follow up on that. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you. And you're going to do it again?
I'm going to do it again.
Why?
Why not?
No, but why do you want to do it again? Like, since it's being offered again, why do you want to go through it again?
The consistency. So like when I first did it, I was maybe meditating for, 5 days in a row, then I was off for a day. 10 days in a row, then I was off for a day. 10 days in a row. I just, anytime that you start something and stop something, you break that momentum, right? Like now on the Abundance book, I'm on the 10th day. I'm starting day 11 tomorrow. And it's, it's like AA, right? Just for today, I'm not going to drink. Like just for today, I'm going to meditate. Right? And that's for me where, that's why I want to do it. Just to prove to myself that I'm committed to growing with me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love that about you. Just So Sean, give it up for Sean. He's like a young guy, probably, but he's on fire with this stuff and the teachings, right? So, and he worked through, and that's the thing about this. When you do this meditation, at first it might be all blissful and unicorns and roses or whatever, but then the stuff is going to come up. But when the stuff comes up and you're in this and you're with the rhythm, it can also dissolve. You're able to do this house cleaning. And that's really important. So this is what he says about this thing in the introduction or the preface. What is this? In the preface. There's no doubt in my mind that this knowledge is of the highest order. Over the course of 20 years, these techniques to access infinite energies of creation were revealed to me. I had no idea I was weaving together such a complete system. So he doesn't take credit even for the information and knowledge in the book. He says it was given to him right through meditation. So sorry, I've got to go back. I'm learning this technique. So just real quick, what is wealth consciousness? And I just want to say, if you do a quick search on wealth, or you go to the dictionary and look wealth, all they talk about is material prosperity. They talk about an abundance of valuable possessions or money. So you get the basic same rendition. So we have all this information at our fingertips, but what if all the information we have is half-truths, right? You have a populace that's misinformed, and you have a populace that's easy to control. So, but if you go deeper into a search on the word wealth, that the word wealth comes from this right here. The Old English word well, right? Where we get some certain words like well-being, wellness, well. welfare, the common welfare, right? Comes from the word wealth. That the real word of wealth is to be healthy, healthy in all areas of life, not just to have stuff. You know, it's good to have stuff, don't get me wrong. But the more stuff you have, the more the stuff has you sometimes. You know, and then the maintenance of behind it. Consciousness, if you look up consciousness, the regular definition you're going to get is a state of being aware of something, right? Like you've regained consciousness, right? But for our purposes, that's not a suitable definition. It's not enough. Not to say that that's wrong, it's just incomplete for our purposes. That consciousness, you know, I like to say consciousness is like your operating system for life. You know what I mean? So if you're going to upgrade your consciousness, you got to also upgrade the hardware. You can't put new consciousness in old hardware, can you? No, you got to have the hardware that's capable to hold the new software. And consciousness is like the software. Your physical body is like the hardware. It's like Jesus said, you can't put new wine in old wine containers or whatever they had. What is the skins, right? Because the skins would bust open. They wouldn't be able to hold that new wine, the expansion and contraction, the old skin. So the same thing. Sandman, he's an IT guy back there too. He's shaking his head. He knows. Yeah, it makes sense to you, right? That analogy, you like that. So basically, our consciousness is compromised of our belief systems. Our beliefs are, I don't have to tell anybody in this room probably. Most people in the room know your beliefs are like the creative force of your life. You know? And, but the consciousness, for our purposes, right, it's not just being aware of the outer surroundings, but what about our inner world as well? The kingdom of heaven is within, right? What if we're not aware of what's inside of us? We're missing the boat. We're not here to just be aware of the physical material world. You know, it'll never be satisfied with it because that's the way you're built. You need something more than the physical material. You can have all the money, all the possessions, all the stuff, and still be unfulfilled because it can only take you but so far. Eventually, you have to find spirit within yourself. You have to find something more. And everybody who's achieved any type of success will tell you the same thing. And so these principles are nothing new. You know, they weren't in the Bible. If we look, there's certain scriptures in the Bible or verses in the Bible that point to, it is done unto you as you believe, right? When the centurion came to Jesus and asked for the healing of his servant or whatever, he said, go your way, as you believed, it is done unto you. Because of your belief, it was done. But if you didn't believe, it's not done. And when they asked him, well, how do you pray? He says, pray believing that you receive, right, so that you may have. So he's basically saying, it's kind of like the law of attraction, like you have to align yourself with the very desire and pray that, and believing that you already have it so that you can be in attractive alignment to it so that you can draw it into your life. Pray believing that you receive that you may have. So you got to pray, you got to use your prayer to get yourself into a state of consciousness where you already have it. And then you'll receive it. He just gave you the key right there. And you can find the same thing can be found in in Buddhist teachings, Islamic teachings, everywhere. If you look within the principles, you'll find it. It's not just to one religion or one tradition. But we rarely experience reality. We're really experiencing our beliefs about reality. You know? It's like, you ever heard the saying, people don't see what they, people say, I'll see it when I believe it. But reality is people only see what they believe. You know, people don't believe what they see. They see what they believe because their beliefs are what's always guiding their perceptions of things and what they see. All right, so I'm not going to get into this here, but there's a real quick overview. There's 4 stages of consciousness I'd like to talk about. One of my mentors taught me a long time ago. I call them the 4 M's. The mortal, the metaphysician, the mystic, and the master. Most people are operating at the level of the mortal. The mortal is never responsible for what happens in their life. It's always somebody else's fault. So they play in the blame game all the time. And when you're in the blame game, what happens? You're giving your power away. The metaphysician is somebody who's starting to now learn about the law of attraction, learn about simple principles that it is done unto you as you believe. Right? But in order for the metaphysician to go to the next level, because the law of attraction works until it doesn't work. It is not the end all, say all, whatever all. It is just the entry level. Okay? And so the law of attraction works until it doesn't work, meaning that the metaphysician at some point has to let go of control to become the mystic, to go to the higher level of consciousness. Letting go of control. Because the metaphysician then starts to think, well, I can manifest this goal, I can manifest that goal. I'm in control. And then you find out you're not controlling your breath, you're not controlling your heart, you ain't controlling the life force, you cannot control the wind. You can only set your sail. Right? So the mystic is a channel for the divine. If you look at any mystic from any tradition, whether Christian, Buddhist, Islamic, they're all saying, Hindu, they're all saying the same thing. They're not caught up on the differences of religion. They're all pointing to the unified field. Every one of them, Rumi, all of them, talk about that we're all one, and we're living in a unified field, and that everything is love. And that's what the mystic is about. The mystic is about love, and the mystic doesn't care about what any other people think about them. Because they're so caught up in the divine and being a channel for the divine, they could care less what people think. Right? And then the higher level is the master. And the master has dissolved any sense of separation between themselves and the divine. They can create anything from nothing, you know? And the great avatars and the great, people who have a higher consciousness, they were always able to just manifest stuff out of just, whoosh, they've done that in India all the time, with a lot of masters. So, all right, so one thing that's very common to just the benefit of meditation is lower cortisol levels, right? Cortisol, or stress hormone, is, we got so much stuff coming at us in today's life, And the stress hormones, like it gives you fatigue, irritability, headaches, anxiety, depression, all this stuff, poor sleep, longer times, lower libido. Nobody wants that. Right, so a lot of common, if you just do a quick search on meditation and cortisol levels or lower stress hormones, this is an article from the Mayo Clinic. Simple, fast way to reduce stress. And how it help high blood pressure, heart disease, some of the biggest killers in our society. Now, it's not a cure-all, end-all, but this is one of the things that I've noticed from a lot of people that just took the course recently. Like they said that when you meditate, you clear away the information overload that builds up every day and contributes to your stress. We are like, you see a physical body here, but there's much more than this. Trust me. We're like an electromagnetic field. If somebody puts you under the right radar and the right instruments, you can see that there's an electromagnetic field around me. And that electromagnetic field holds a lot of the stresses and stuff that we gather as going through life. We're holding all this stuff. The great thing about a daily meditation practice or a simple practice, whatever it be, it doesn't have to be meditation. Some people dance, some people do whatever. But one thing about that daily meditation practice, it helps to clear this electromagnetic field of the dust and grit of the journey. All the stuff that you acquire from the day. If I come home at 5 o'clock and I do my evening meditation, I'm recharged again. I'm refreshed again. I'm ready to do life again. But I think when I come home at that point, I'm just exhausted. Or even if I'm home working from home that day, still 5 or 6 o'clock. When I building things, if I actually sit down and give that 10 minutes, it's just 10 minutes. That's all I ask for. And the great thing about 10 minutes is nobody does not have 10 minutes. So there's no excuse of I didn't have the time. It takes away the time excuse. Everybody has 10 minutes, right? So meditation can give you a sense of calm, peace, and balance. Everybody in this room knows that already. I'm not giving no new rocket science to you. I'm not giving you no new information. But the benefits don't end when your meditation ends. And this is what a lot of people I started experiencing in the course that they would share. They'd be like, you know what? Such and such came, and this person, when they come, I used to get freaked out, or I handled the situation this way. They were able to handle these situations in a more compassionate and easy way, rather than immediately reacting to the situation. So there's a lot more emotional stability, and we make the most stupidest decisions when we are angry. Anger cuts us off from the flow. And all of this meditation practice and this wealth conscious practice is about living in the flow, right? And so increased self-awareness, focusing and living in the present, reduction of negative emotions, increased imagination, creativity, increased patience and tolerance. And that's what I was talking about. A lot of people were sharing that they were able to, and I already talked about this. What's the real purpose of meditation? For me, and it could be, there's not just this one end-all purpose for meditation. It can be a bunch of things. But for me, real reality is what I want to be freed from the tyranny of my own mind, right? To recognize one's own insanity, is of course the arising of sanity. When people start to even see the insanity of their own mind, is actually the beginning of sanity. Most people are unaware of how they're like Goggins says, your mind has a tactical advantage of you, and it knows your weaknesses, and it knows your all your points. You know what I mean? And it will use it against you, right? But the mind, like I like to say, the mind is a terrible master, but it's a great servant. The problem is we've let it be the master. We've got to take our power back, right? And then we use the mind for what it's been used for. Some traditions say that this is the seat of the mind. But the mind has separated itself from the source. And when you bring it back home, and that's what this meditation does, when you bring it back home, the mind starts to relax in the meditation. As the mind relaxes, the body starts to relax. And then everything starts to relax. You can release. And like it's better to do life from a place of relaxation than a high level of high stress cortisol levels, right? And feeling like, oh my God, I got to do this, and now amped like I usually am, right? So these are some of the benefits, like I told you, and like what people are feeling is just a lot, when it comes down to it, peace. And that can be overstated. What I started feeling a couple of weeks into doing the practice again, I only started about 4 or 5 months ago, just feeling good for no damn reason. Just feeling good just to be like, you know what I mean? Not because of this or not because when your happiness is tied to circumstance or situation, it's not real happiness. It's manipulation and it's just temporary and it's always fleeting. But when your happiness is like tied to just like who you are, your natural state of who you are, it's real. And so only thing that covers up our happiness, our joy, our peace, our abundance, all these qualities are God-given qualities that are within us. But when this is all clouded up and the fog and the electromagnetic field is filled with all the dust and the grit of the journey, you can't be happy. You're carrying too much stuff to be happy. But when you lighten your load and you get rid of that stuff and you're living a lot lighter and freer, then happiness is just your natural state of being. Not to say I'm happy 24/7 or anything like that, but I'm a lot happier than I was before, and I'm just as happy just to be happy. And just to feel good, just to be feeling good. And then what happens when you feel good just to be feel good, then you don't have to chase feeling good. You don't have to chase your addictions. Because all your addictions are based upon a certain feeling. Whatever addict is addicted to, they're addicted to the feeling that they get that something's going to give them. Even if it's pain, they don't care. That's the feeling that they're used to, and that feeling impulse drives them again and again to get that feeling again and again. So why am I doing this? Why am I taking my time? I may have already given it away, but this is a quote from the book. You can't flow with wealth alone. When you flow, you're going to elevate a lot of people with you as well. You can't correct your thinking and flow with wealth without also making major changes in the mass consciousness, in the race consciousness. We're all tied. We're all connected. It naturally follows. We're all connected. By bringing abundance into your life, you help usher abundance for everyone. Right? And then the great saying is, if you want to master something, teach it to others. So, and I'm here for the game of mastery. So I sent out this email. This is the email I told you I sent out in the 18th of July, and it was basically making a bold claim, like, that I'm going to do this class, right? But absolutely nothing can compare to the value of this work will bring you over the next 5, 10, 20 years and beyond. Why am I willing to make such a bold statement? Simple. This book teaches you how to connect to infinite intelligence, the source of all wealth. It teaches you how to remove the subconscious, mass consciousness beliefs that are not only interfering with your prosperity, but you can use them for any area of your life. Like when you learn these techniques, you can really once you get into the meditation practice, right, you'll get a yes and no signal. And then you'll be able to use that yes and no signal for a lot of different things. And you'll be able to ask, what beliefs are interfering with my prosperity? What beliefs are interfering with my health? What beliefs are interfering with this situation here? And once you see the belief, you can change it. You can't change what you don't see. This process teaches that. So it starts with the rhythms of reality, which is basically just being aware of all the rhythms everywhere, which I'm not going to get into. You have the book. But this is it right here. The basic practice is the daily practice, that this is the level of commitment that anybody needs to do this. This is it. This is the minimum right here, is to just be minimal, to commit 10 to 20 minutes to allow yourself to be with the rhythm. The second chapter will give you an exercise, a 40-minute exercise. A 40-minute exercise, which is 10 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that, 10 minutes of this, and 10 minutes of that. And the last 10 minutes is just lying down, so it's not really 10 minutes. But like the 10 minutes is a circular breathing like Shawn was guiding us into, right? To just do 10 circular breathing for 10 minutes. And the circular breathing, the great thing about it is like continuous. If you look at a baby when they breathe, I studied transformational breathing. I spent a lot of money studying breath for years as well. And I even did a retreat in California back in 2007 for breath workers, people who specialize in breath work, right? So, but if you look at a baby, their diaphragm, it just goes in and out. There's not a whole lot of pause. And so what they say in transformational breathing is that when you hold the breath on the exhale, it's like you're afraid to let go. And when you hold the breath, you have a constriction of how much you breathe in. It's also it's a fear of receiving and opening up. So we have a certain thermostat set in our lives. This is our comfort zone. As long as things are at this place, we're good. And then what happens if life gets too good beyond this comfort zone, we go into what's called self-sabotage. We want to get back to that comfort zone, right? But by doing these practices, you'll get to raise up and change your comfort zone and be able to open up to experience more good into your life, right? So you notice that you see a lot of people, sometimes they get this windfall of money or something good happens. It's too good, they go back into self-sabotage because they don't feel underneath, they don't feel worthy of it, right? So this is the exercise for chapter 2, right? There's 10 minutes of the circular breathing, and then 10 minutes you'll just sit there and you notice the pulsation in this area of the body. And if you're patient and you allow it, it'll come, right? And then that pulsation might also go into like a physical swaying or a vision or some other pleasant sensation. It builds upon it. So for the next 10 to 20 minutes, you're sitting there. And then the last 10 minutes, you're just lying down. And you may do that exercise once and you get the rhythm. You may do it 2 or 3 times to get the rhythm. But once you got the rhythm, you don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to do the breathing anymore. You don't have to do any of this stuff no more. All you have to do is sit for 10 minutes and be with the rhythm. So when I meditate, I just sit. I put the timer on. I got this Insight app. This is my little ding, 10 minutes. And then 10 minutes afterwards, it dings again, and then 10 minutes afterwards. So I set for 20 minutes, and there has an interval ding at 10 minutes. Right? So I can, after 10 minutes, then you can do other exercises. But that 10 minutes is just sitting there and being with the thing. Within that 10 minutes, you're like, wow, you're just like totally in a different state of being. Just lighter, freer, clearer. Hey, thank you all of you for coming out tonight. Appreciate you. I'm so glad this night is over, to be honest with you. That I got this out of the road. I can go back to other things because I was obsessed with this, getting this thing together.
So what is this next step? Are you committing
Okay, so
to an 8-week on this, or
so
what?
so
What does this look like?
I'm gonna do 4 weeks. All right. Good. I'm gonna take 2 weeks off and then maybe another 2-3 weeks because I'm taking the week before Thanksgiving. I'm going to Mexico, and I'll be in the week of Thanksgiving. I'm not doing the cliff, but it's gonna be a Zoom thing for 4 weeks. Right, starting next Thursday. And just send me an email at lightofloveunlimited@gmail.com. I'll add you to the list if you want to come, if you're interested. You're already on the list.
You're going to kick it off?
Next Thursday, is that good?
Next week.
Next Thursday. So next Thursday, and then starting that next Thursday, it'll be 4 weeks consecutively. A 2-week break, which will be one of those weeks will be Thanksgiving and the week before Thanksgiving. And then another maybe 2 or 3 weeks to finish up.
Read the book ahead of time, or just show up to that
So
first one?
show up to the first one. Try to get chapters 1 and 2. Try to get that chapter 2 exercise done, and then start building the practice with that. To do the 10 minutes. But chapter 1, chapter 2, that's it. And just if you get that vibration, that meditation, start doing the 10-minute meditation. Whenever that's where it's at. If you just do the 10-minute meditation, I'm telling you. And you get nothing else out of this. That meditation will help you with your health. It'll help you with your mindset. It'll help you with it just help you in so many different areas. I can't stress it. In that 10 minutes, you get so much out of it. The guy who wrote that book, Atomic Habits, if you just grow a little bit each day, and how much is the cumulative? They show the graph. It just shoots up like that over a period of time. So if you just do this one little meditation, 10 minutes each day, and cumulatively, I tell you, it just shoots up. And you just start. Ruby stayed with it. Right? And I started noticing, like, she started feeling like she just started looking different. Like, she's always been beautiful, but, I could tell, like, she was getting tired and her energy wasn't there and stuff like that. And she started doing it. She has no thyroid, you know what I mean? So she takes thyroid meds. She has no thyroid. It was eliminated a long time ago. And, she stayed committed to it. And she did that practice. And she did it better than me. I'm lucky if I get it twice a day. I always get it once a day. She gets it twice a day, I think, So Ruby, my brother, also really benefited. Danny changed in the last few months, by just doing the practice. So, all right, I'm around, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you.